Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the ranking member, Mrs. Swalwell from California, for 5 minutes.
Great. Thank you, Chairman. And like every witness, I share in the excitement about the potential of AI. And one piece of this that is not discussed enough is equity in AI, in making sure that every school district in my district gives a child the opportunity to learn it. And I think that's one part we have to get right, is to make sure that you don't have kind of two classes of kids, the class that learns AI and the class that doesn't have the resources. That's a separate issue. But on cybersecurity, Mr. Stamos, if you could just talk about what can AI do on the predictive side to help small and medium-sized businesses to kind of see the threats that are coming down the track and stopping them? And is that affordable right now? Is it off the shelf? Like, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I think this is related to Mr. Luttrell's flower shop he's talking about. If you're a small or medium business, it has never been either cost effective or really honestly possible to protect yourself at the level that you're dealing with by yourself. And so I think the way that we support small or medium businesses is we try to encourage, one, to move them to the cloud as much as possible, effectively collective defense. If your mail system is run by the same company that's running 100,000 other companies, and they have a security team of 400 or 500 people that they can amortize across all of those customers, that's the same thing with AI. And then the second is probably to build more, we're called MSSP, Managed Security Service Provider relationships, so that you can go hire somebody whose job it is to watch your network, and that they give you a phone call. And hopefully, if everything's worked out and the AI is worked out, you get a call that says, oh, somebody tried to break in, they tried to encrypt your machine, I took care of it.
And what can CISA do to work with the private sector on this?
So I like what CISA has done so far. I think their initial guidelines are smart. CISA's, like I said before, I think a key thing for CISA to focus on right now is to get the reporting infrastructure up. One of the problems we have as defenders is we don't talk to each other enough, right? The bad guys are actually working together. They hang out on these forums, they trade code, they trade exploits. But when you deal with a breach, you're often in a lawyer-imposed silo, that you're not supposed to talk to anybody and not send any emails and not work together. And I think CISA breaking those silos apart so that companies are working together is a key thing they can do.
Do you see legal risks that are bending companies away from smart, transparent responses?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's something I put in my written testimony. I once worked in incident response where there were 4 law firms on every single call because different parts of the board were suing each other, and there's a new CEO and an old CEO, and it was a mess. Like, you can't do incident response in a situation where it's all overly legalized. And I think part of this comes from the shareholder stuff, is that any company that deals with any security breach, any public company, automatically ends up with derivative lawsuits that they spend years and years defending that don't actually make anything better. And then part of it is the regulatory structure, of the SEC and such, creating rules that now kind of really over-legalize defense.
Do we have the talent pool or the willingness of individuals right now to go into these fields, to work as a Chief Information Security Officer?
Yeah, so we actually have a real
talent.
Speak to that. Yeah, as a CISO, we have a real talent pool problem on 2 sides. So on, I don't want to say the low end, but the entry level jobs, we are not creating enough people for the SOC jobs, the analyst jobs, the kinds of things that most companies need. And I think that's about investing in community colleges and retraining programs of helping people get these jobs either mid-career or without going and doing a computer science degree, which really isn't required for that work. And then at the high end, Chief Information Security Officer, CISO is the worst C-level job in all of public capitalism.
Why is that?
Sorry, sir. Because it is, you are naturally, when I was a CISO and I would walk in the room, people would mutter under their breath like, oh my God, Stamos is here. And it's partially because you're kind of the Grim Reaper, right? You're only there for negative downside effects for the company. You have no positive impact on the bottom line generally. And so it's already a tough place, but what's also happened is that there's now legal actions against CISOs for mistakes that have been made by the overall enterprise. And this is something else I'm very critical of the SEC about, is that they're going after the CISO of SolarWinds.
Is that a deterrent to people wanting to be a CISO?
Oh, absolutely. I have 2 friends this last month who have turned down CISO jobs because they don't want the personal liability. They don't want to be in a situation where the entire company makes a mistake and then they're the ones facing a prosecution or an SEC investigation. It's become a real problem for CISOs.
Yield back.